Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Gibson today for another episode of Socialization of Abuse. I tell you, this is one of the most exciting and fun things that I do. As our company grows, Norm Therapy Inc., this channel will become extremely important. We're going to have the wherewithal and monies and a lot of other things in order to bring people into our fold that we otherwise couldn't have gotten. And we have some amazing people already here, but I'm talking celebrities and movie stars and uh, world speakers. Right now, I want you to get to know our company. I want you to know that we have about 100 volunteers around the world working with the Abuse Refuge Org, and that's our nonprofit where Norm Therapy Inc. undergirds the nonprofit and provides the services as well as all of the training and the curriculum for norm therapists, as well as sessions. Once we have trained norm therapists on the abuse refuge side, they're immediately taken into their probationary period. And after their probationary period, they're taken into norm therapy, where they can actually start talking to and have, of course, talk to victims and survivors around the world about a myriad of different abuses. The one thing we like to talk about all the time, and we like to hammer in so our audience and everyone will know, is that when you see one abuse in someone, there's normally two or three more. It's like that lady that you go to her house and all of a sudden she's like, "Hey, how are you? Come on in. Take this glass of wine. Thank you." Hey, okay, thank you very much. And then she'll say, "Yeah, can I take your coat?" She'll take your coat. And then she'll turn back around and she'll say, "Can I get you a sandwich? Can I take your shoes off and put them out the door? Can I get, okay, we have gifts for everybody here. Let me get you your gift." And you're like, "Wow, this is a nice lady," or what? And you're wondering what's going on. Absolutely, what's going on? And then you finally realize that there's a difference between pleasing people and a people pleaser. A people pleaser is a person who has the inkling in their head that they're about to lose people for fear of abandonment, normally. So they overcompensate as they're trying to please them. And normally you can tell the difference between a person who's just happy, because there are people out there who are just happy and they love to help you. There are those folks. But you can tell the difference between a people pleaser and a person who likes to please people. Two different things. The biggest differences are that one, a people pleaser, which is a very bad condition to be in and an abuse to suffer, is a form of self-abuse, is a person who's not very well appreciated by the people that she's actually or he's actually providing that type of pleasing to. You will see that on the faces of the people they're trying to please if you just look closely. But you'll also see that there's another component to people pleasing that actually you can, if you pay attention, you'll get it. See, abuse is hard to articulate, but this particular component is that you're watching this person actually twist themselves into knots to take care of people. And they actually are hurting themselves to the point of their own detriment. That's the difference between a person who is pleasing someone and a person who is people pleasing. Because the one who pleases someone, you see them get joy out of helping you. Because there are some nice folks out there that just says, "Hey, I'd like to please you. I want you to be okay when you're in my environment, or when we're hanging out together, or when I'm in your environment." They're just nice people. So you have to pay attention to those social, physical, and mental cues that will alert you. But anyway, I want to talk about our guest. I'm going to have her come in a couple of seconds, but I want to tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Mary Wanyama. She works with Abuse Refuge Org, our 501c3, and she's a training and development coordinator with the organization. She has over 7 years experience in the educational industry and is passionate about mentorship. We get people from all over the world. She's from Africa. I'll let her talk more. As a matter of fact, I'm talking to her, I think, from Africa today. So without any further ado, I would like for Mary to come in and let her tell you a little bit more about herself. Mary? Yay. How are you today, Mary? Good to see you. Everything okay? Where you?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm doing very well. I tell you, I'm here in Dubai right now, and it is so hot. It is
Wow.
so, well, like Africa in a lot of places. I spent a lot of time in Africa and in the Middle East, and I tell you, it is hot, hot. In the morning at 5 a.m., it's already 100 degrees Fahrenheit,
Oh,
almost 40 degrees here in Celsius. So it's always hot here, except
yeah.
for and during the wintertime or the beginning of the year, oftentimes it's kind of cool. And then
Mm.
around now towards June, it gets it's not even hot yet, to be honest. When we're out at 140 or 145 degrees Fahrenheit, then it starts to get hot. So how are you today?
I'm doing well. I
Tell us
appreciate.
about you and I want to know about all these different degrees you have. It says that you have accomplished your business management master's, your MBA, your BBM and CIM. Okay, so what are the BBMs and the CIM? Tell our people what that all.
Wow. I'll start with the highest. That is the MBA. MBA is Masters in Business Administration.
That one I understand. Okay,
Yes,
and
I did it and I graduated in 2018.
okay, so
And
quite
I
a while.
focused on strategic management.
Okay,
But
what
before that,
what university was that?
that was Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. It is in Nairobi, Kenya.
Oh, Nairobi. There you go. Okay. Yes, I've
Yes,
been to
yes,
Nairobi. I have been there a few times, as a matter of fact. The only
yes.
disappointing parts about Nairobi is I haven't seen any big animals yet. That's the only part I hate about being in Kenya. I haven't seen any big animals yet. Uh,
Ah, but
but I
they
know
are
they're
there.
there. I
They are
know
there
they're
actually. Recently, even the lions were on the run, and presidents were being warned that, the
Wait a minute, you
lions are
have
out
lion
there
attack.
in the Nairobi. But yeah, the wildlife team took care of it, and everything went well.
Okay,
So
so
we are safe.
just like we have alerts like, okay, a little girl is lost. Parents come pick her up. You guys have the lion is attacking today, so everybody be on the lookout. You know,
Yeah, actually, it
relevant.
was on the run. Yeah, it sneaked
That's
out of the
amazing.
park. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It sneaked out of the park and it was on the streets at some point. Let me say some 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago?
Yeah, yeah. And
Wow.
residents were being warned, but actually, the wildlife authority took care of the matter, and yeah, they got hold of it, and it's back in the park.
Wow. So tell me, how did you become a training and development coordinator at Abuse Refuge or ARO, ARO? How did you become that?
Actually, before joining Arrow, initially, I had the experience in corporate training where I was working. It was a higher learning institution, but it also had a portfolio of training. So I was a corporate and training officer.
Okay.
So I had some experience in regards to training, corporate training. So when
Mhm.
I saw an opportunity at Aero, so I felt like, uh, I should be part of this, crew
So you were
because,
pulled over there. You were pulled over to
yeah,
it.
sure. So I went through initially, I was looking at refugee, when I wanted to apply, and I was like, refugee, and I associated to, the normal refugee.
Refuge,
But
not
when
refuge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I went to the website and read about it, and I noticed it was talking about abuse, and it drew my attention. I really want to know what is all about abuse because it's something that is never talked about by people. So I sent in my application, and the interview process was smooth. I had two
They say we
interviews.
have one of the best in the world. Everyone who comes to us said we have one of the best onboarding procedures they've ever
Yes,
experienced. We
yes,
do have a wonderful work environment, but go ahead. Tell us
yes.
more. Tell me, only because we have an hour, because we're already 10 minutes in and we're
Mhm.
still talking about the preliminaries, hellos, and what's going on. So that means we're going to probably have a very good conversation today. So I don't want to lose any opportunities to talk to you about some of the things that I think we should discuss. Hope you don't mind me rushing along. But before we get there,
Mhm.
I understand you have three sons or three boys or
Three,
three
three
kids,
daughters. I
three
have three
daughters. Oh,
daughters. Yes, they're
forgive me for
girls.
breathing. Oh my God, forgive me for breathing. Precious girls. So you have three girls, and
Yes.
tell me about your daughters. Tell us about.
Yeah, so my firstborn is at 11 years.
Wow.
She's
Okay.
called
You don't look like you have an
Tessie.
11-year-old child. Oh, but keep going. There you go.
Yeah, she's called Tessie Evans. She's in grade 6.
Sixth grade. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
grade
11.
6.
Okay.
Yes. And she's actually a vibrant girl. I do love her so much because, um, she's a kind of, a girl who is outgoing and she likes drawing. She's an artist.
Extrovert. She's an
Yes,
extrovert with artistic talent. There you go.
yeah, she's an artist. She can draw you. Actually, you will just pause there and she can draw you. She started that at age of, 6 years. So
So
we've
she's
been
a real artist.
nurturing.
She's a real artist. She's not like,
Yes,
oh, I'm going to go to
yes,
paint school and learn. She can actually do it, is what you're saying.
yes.
Well, I'm
She
very
can
proud to
draw.
know this.
Yeah, she's good at drawing.
Okay, well, I'm
And at
glad to hear.
school, she also does very well. Yeah, she's very respectful. Another one, a second born, is called Elsie.
Elsie, cool name. I
Elsie,
like that name.
yes.
Cool name.
Yeah, now Elsie is in we call it pre-primary.
Okay, like
True,
middle school.
pre-primary, true. So she's yet to graduate to go to primary school. She had when she was she when I was bringing her up from childhood, she had some delayed milestones, but
Hmm.
apparently she's
Those
doing
are
very
normally the
well.
brightest people. Those are normally, they turn out to be the brightest people.
Yes, yes, yes.
Delayed
So
milestones. Oh
it
my God, yes. But keep
actually it
going.
was challenging to me because now I was comparing the firstborn because the firstborn was, very fast and
Mhm.
chap chap, she's a kind of a girl who will grasp things very fast. And now at some point, I was stressed because, you're trying to compare. It's just normal with mothers, you're trying to compare, like, this one at this age was doing this one,
They're
and this
already
one is
doing
not
this,
doing
that
this one. Yeah, then little did I know that, each and every child has got his own developmental,
path. They have their own path of development. And
yes, yes.
oftentimes there's a kind of a syndrome, I like to call it, where if you are a second child or a middle child, my second child was the same way. I'm talking about phenomenally intelligent girl. My second daughter, phenomenally intelligent. But she used to watch my first daughter, watch her make all her mistakes and just sit there quiet and slow. Like, no problem. I'll wait. And then, but she learned from her big sister, before she would enter into things. I love talking about kids. And so you have another daughter. Tell me about
Yeah.
your other.
Yes, now the third one is called Gianna.
Okay, cool name. We had a person that worked with our organization for a long time named Jen. Is it Jenna or Genna?
Yes, G
G.
I.
Oh, yeah, same thing. Okay, got
Yes.
it.
So
So
she's 1 year, three
okay.
months. 1 year,
Wow.
3 months.
So
But now
recent.
for her, she's quite also different because now at 1 year, 3 months, she can speak some words. She asks things.
Question.
Yes, she
I
knows so
understand.
many things.
And they have two influ she has two influences. She has two older sisters.
Yes,
Siblings
exactly,
always have a better
exactly.
together.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes when people
So
have an only child, it makes it difficult for that child to
it's
form in an environment and really pick up on the social cues and the intellectual cues in that environment.
true.
When you have siblings, oh, you have someone to bounce information off of or watch them
Ye-
progress or fail. You get to see these things as siblings. Okay, we got through your kids. I know I needed to mention them. Don't relax. I mean, this is going to be a great conversation. One of the things I want to ask you about, because I'm excited for you to be here. Can you share a little bit about your professional journey as it relates to mentorship? That's something that's important to you on your bio. And I wanted to dig right into that. Can you share with us mentorship? What does that mean to you? And how do you operate in that regard?
Okay, so like I said, I've had over 7 years in the education industry, and
Mhm,
all along, I've been dealing with, impacting learners with information.
mhm.
But and then I realized that just impacting them with that information, or you're trying to take them through a syllabus, it's not enough. They need some sort of guidance, especially
Mhm.
when it comes to career choice. Some
Yeah.
of the learners, yes, some of the learners tend to, like they are lost
Mhm.
because where they come from, their parents maybe insist on a certain career path. But
Mhm.
again, you realize that this kind of a learner has a certain kind of desires.
You're saying learner. People may think you're saying learner. Oh, but it's a
Oh,
learner. But no, I'm not
oh,
saying it incorrectly. You're saying it the way you say it in Kenya. So there you go. But you're
yes,
talking about the students, the learners who are
y-
getting this information. You're saying it's not enough. It's just not
yes,
enough. And they
it's not.
need guidance. They need some we call them hand ups instead of
Yes,
handouts. They need a
yes,
hand up instead of a handout. Okay, keep
yes,
going. I got you. I'm
yes,
up to date. So,
yes.
so tell us about
So
it.
in the journey of my career now, handling these particular learners, I had now, to find another way of supporting these learners
Mhm.
in a direction that they really want to be in terms of career.
In the
Because
direction they would resonate, of course.
yes,
Of
their
course.
career path. Because
Of
there are
course.
those who are there and they have just come because, they completed maybe their high school and now they're in tertiary. But, at the age, some of them were as young as 16 years. So at that age, some of them didn't know actually uh, what they want to be because they still need to be guided. Now,
Yes.
where I was working, we came up with a program called career counseling, and now that is where mentorship came in. Now, apart from that, also, at workplace, I noticed that even individuals, as much as they were being, they were being employees in this particular
Mhm.
firm, there was
Okay.
some sort of gaps that really
Very subtle. Very like you had to really look hard to see them. So what were those gaps?
yes, there were some gaps in terms of passion.
Yes.
And if you mentor these people, you speak to them about the importance of this particular career, then they develop now that passion about it. Because some people learn to job opportunities just because that is the only thing that is there at that particular
Exactly.
point. It's the only food to be served with at that particular point, you
So
know.
you're
But it's,
planting seeds. You're planting seeds in them.
yes,
Good
but you're not
job.
passionate about it. But
Exactly.
now you find yourself in that particular industry and you develop that passion.
Mhm.
And that is now where mentorship comes in.
So you develop a higher propensity for them to want to choose a career because they have time with you mentoring them to where they can learn more about it and understand that connection or why they should be passionate about it. I agree with you. I think kids coming out of high school, going into the university, I don't think they know enough or have the maturity as a group, as a segment of our society or group as a whole. They have enough mature information to decide what they want to do for the rest of their lives. I think that's a terrible mistake we make, especially in the United States. We make a terrible mistake when we
Yes.
automatically assume that a 16 or 17-year-old kid, forgive me, or young adult, I should say,
Yeah.
um, are making their life choices for the rest of their lives to be a pharmacist or to be a policeman or to be a lawyer. They may like the way it sounds since they were younger, but they don't know what it's like to have been in that career path and to know that it's for them or something they can be passionate about or something they'll love. I heard a statistic the other day. Our Kelly, who's our global executive director over at the nonprofit, she found some statistics, and one of them said that 95% of the people on the planet hate their job. I couldn't believe it until I read it. 95% of the people on the planet hate their job. And that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. But anyway, it is terrible. So I'm sorry, don't want to take up too much of your space on this, but I wanted to make that fact really known. And I want to go to another issue that's very important to you.
Mm-hmm.
Gender-based violence is something you seem to have a great compassion and focus on for the country of Kenya and in Africa in general. People like to think that Africa is one country. All over the world, you say, where are you from? They say, oh, you're from Africa or wherever. And they think it's one country, but they don't know there's 54 nations, real nations that have real governments and real people. So Africa is kind of a myth because it's been one of the most, how shall I say, raped countries, continents, and diaspora on the planet, by country, by diaspora, and of course the continent of Africa. So there's a lot of backlash from the history of having been raped by many colonial as well as other external entities that have entered into Africa up until the present day, from slavery and even prior to in the United States to Africa, even to now. But one of the things that have stayed with Kenya and a lot of parts of Africa is violence to women. I've been to Africa many times, and just about every country I've ever been in, there's always an element of the society that treats women in such a violent manner. Not saying that all Africans are this way, but it's a very prevalent phenomenon that occurs. So tell me, what is your take on gender-based violence in Kenya or in Africa for that matter?
Yeah. So looking at gender-based violence, to be specific, in this case, we are focusing on it happening on women because I'm meant to understand that even men undergo through the same thing. Yes. But my major focus is on women. Actually, I can say in African setup, women undergo through this, violence, gender-based violence, and some of them, they do not have that, courage to speak out. And then, absolutely. Yes, so they do not speak out. And now it turns out to be like, a generational thing, because let me say, I'm married and I have my kids around. My daughters are watching me as,
the example.
And now I'm being abused in this marriage by my husband. And I'm not doing anything. I'm not speaking it out.
So hypothetically, you're saying hypothetically, not your real husband, but hypothetically.
Hypothetically, exactly.
Okay.
Sure, thank you for clarification on that.
The husband will say, wife, what did you tell me? Okay. I caught the difference. I caught it. So we're okay. Tell your husband, I say, we're okay. I get it. Okay. So let's say a husband,
yes,
would be abusing his wife in front of their 3 daughters.
Yes.
But hypothetically speaking, what is that doing to the sociology and the psychology of that community or that family and the onlookers and the prejudgers what what is that saying to the world when you
Yeah.
take it? What are you saying to your daughters?
Yep. So you're not speaking it out. You're not taking any action. And the thing is, you have to hold on to persevere because of this. You want a full family for your
Mhm.
kids. You want a father and you want a mother, and now you want the children. So what are these children learning at their tender age? They're
Yes.
learning that, okay,
Those
someone can
formative
just,
years, those formative years. Yeah, absolutely. They're absorbing everything in their environment.
exactly.
And
And
that's what
then,
people don't understand. They don't understand that it's not you that influence your children to be like you. It's your
yeah,
environment that influence your children to be like
yeah,
you. And so that environment is important. Thank you for bringing that up, but keep going, please.
yes. So these children learns from the mother, and now
Mhm.
it becomes like, something which is normal. And when they grow up, they will undergo through the same abuse and they will not speak it out because they have seen their mother never spoke it out.
Mhm.
And this is the person they are looking up to. And
Yes.
therefore, if our mom persevered, in that marriage and our mom raised us, we can as well,
Yeah.
persevere. So you realize that the trend becomes,
Generation and
yes,
cyclical.
it becomes generational. And these things, when you ask, out of 10 married women, uh, be frank, open up and tell me,
Yeah.
are you comfortable?
But you do
There will be
know,
a,
and I'm sorry. We have a lag, so if I speak over you, I apologize. What I'm trying to make you understand is, and I agree with you 100%. Um, you said they look up to you. Well, see, children emulate their parents. They
yes.
emulate the important figures in their lives
Mm-hmm.
as a part of their personality growth and
Mm-hmm.
development.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes, children see things that you don't think they see.
Exactly.
Let's say you and your husband have an argument, or
Mm-hmm.
hypothetically speaking, have an argument, and you don't think they hear you, but they're in their bedrooms and you think they're asleep, but they're like laying there listening like this, like what's going on as they lay down. And that has a great effect on children later on in life.
Yes.
We talk about that a lot at norm therapy, and we teach people how to treat their children and how their children should be treating them
Yep.
in norm therapy as well. But anyway, keep going. This is a fascinating. So gender-based violence against women is your major focus.
Yes.
So what kinds of crimes against women occur in Kenya that you want to bring to light or let people know what's going on? What kind of crimes of gender-based violence would you say are most prevalent there?
Okay. So in most cases, it starts with, verbal abuse.
Mhm.
It is violence. You are tortured both, mentally, psychologically, and sometimes it also ruins someone's self-esteem. Look at,
Absolutely.
yes, a lady who has been, a vibrant person, and after some few years, you realize that this person is now shrinking and things are not going well. The has gone down. So this
Yeah.
is due to verbal abuse. It also comes with also the physical, you know, where even at some point women are murdered, you know. Yeah, it
Yes,
just,
I've been in
yes,
many countries where they have a murder rate for women in the country.
yes,
You can see billboards that says 340 women dead this year by hand of domestic violence or something like that.
yeah.
So a lot of women there in Kenya. Um, isn't it like what 60 million people in Kenya? What? How many? How big is Kenya?
50,
50 million?
50,
Okay,
50
50,
million. Yeah.
50 million people. That's a pretty good number of people. Wow. And with that, um, a large portion of men and women um, have physical altercations, but you're looking more at, and I want to just remind the audience that 1 out of 7 to sometimes 2 out of 7 men are abused in society globally, especially in the
Exactly.
United States, Africa, and Europe. and even in the Americas, Central and South America, a lot of men are just as abused as women, but we're going to concentrate on women today. So, just for the sake of this conversation. But you find these women who are being murdered. What are some of the reasons that these killers, these murderers, what are some of the reasons they give for having killed this woman?
Okay, so you find that maybe there's some suspicion in infidelity in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the wife is suspecting the husband, or the husband suspects,
The
the wife.
yes.
So it ends up, with the anger and without control of either of the partners, you find that, murder has been caused.
This is pretty devastating, and it happens all over the world. And I think more light should be shined upon this kind of violence. And it's almost culturally, in some places, it's almost culturally accepted that if there's an issue of infidelity anywhere in the relationship, that a woman is almost always given the fault or the blame. And she's normally the one that's given the punishment and not necessarily the man. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that women are normally punished for infidelity and men are not in that part of the world?
I think the way I mentioned the traditional or the generational thing,
Abuse.
from the beginning, we could realize that women were being taken as, so inferior.
Second-class citizens.
Yes. And therefore, from the traditional kind of setup, and now we are evolving, the mentality still remains that, women are supposed to be inferior.
Got it.
Number two, we notice that, again, there are some red flags that are normally ignored, because before it gets to a point of, you being murdered, it's not an accident thing. There has been several situations whereby you've seen red flags.
Well, we call those, just so you know, at norm therapy, we call those red flags identifiable victim markers.
Exactly.
Those identifiable victim markers that we see, but we're not paying attention to. And then that is what caused them to get killed or hurt later, because we weren't able to articulate those red flags, those identifiable victim markers. But keep going. So what kind of victim markers or red flags are you seeing?
Maybe you'll receive something like threats. Someone threatens you that one day, you do this, I will kill you. And to me, I believe that, Michael, when you get to a point where you're telling me that you're going to kill me, we got
a problem.
It is not, something that just came out of your lips, because, we always guard what we take out in terms of, what you're speaking out. But when it gets to a point when I threaten you and I say, I'll kill you, it is something that has built in my brain and in my mind.
Internalized.
Yes. And then, when someone threatens you that I will kill you, and you take it lightly.
Yeah.
Another thing, you are physically, assaulted. Someone assaults you.
That's another identifier.
And then you take a slap this side, and then you keep quiet. Today is a slap. I always believe that today is a slap. Tomorrow it won't be a slap only. It will come with something else. It will be a kick.
It'll be punch or kicked or beaten. Yes, it is. It's very, and it's an escalating. What I tell people all the time is abuse is ubiquitous. It's everywhere, happening to everybody all at the same time. And people don't know how to articulate it. And it never, ever gets better on its own. You have to take steps and measures to get out of those abusive circumstances and or to do something about it. You hit on a very important point, Mary. You really did. And I want to share. You said people are afraid and they're kind of cowardly when it comes to abuse. The number one reason for all abuse, no matter the kind of abuse, it doesn't matter whether it's financial abuse, child abuse, spousal abuse, narcissism, it doesn't matter the abuse. The number one reason for abuse is people are afraid and they allow these things to occur to them. In norm therapy, of course, we teach people how to treat you. We tell people whenever you're dealing with anyone, and we explain to them using the techniques that we've developed, we explain to them that people don't know how to treat you. So they'll always do to you what they think they can get away with. That's it. They won't, nobody will do anything to you if they don't think they can get away with it. They'll try, they'll probe, they'll test you to see what they can get away with. And if you allow them to use your fear as a form of your defense mechanisms with them, then they're going to continue to abuse you and hurt you and do all of those terrible things to you because they know you're afraid. I'm loving that you brought that point up. Have you seen many people in Kenya that or who have found themselves like absolutely afraid, terrified that they were in terrible relationships and didn't know how to get out of it? And how did you help them?
First of all, I've seen several. Some of them are my friends. And what I've always encouraged them, always get a professional to speak about what you're going through. Absolutely. And then never take something that you're not comfortable with. If something is not going well with you, you have to speak it out. I will take an example of me when I was growing up. I used to have a very good relationship with my dad. He died in 2021. And he impacted me positively in a manner that when I was growing up, like I can attest, he never raised a hand on me. Regardless of what happens in Africa, like, you know, you're disciplining children using a cane. But my dad was always telling me that men are not supposed to raise hands on ladies.
So I like your dad already. Yes. I like your dad already. I'm sorry to hear he died, but I like this man. But keep going.
Yes. So I grew up knowing that men are not supposed to raise hands on anybody who is a lady, any woman. So even my brothers, when we were growing up, we were so many of us. You know, I had 4 brothers. So, so they were being born.
It was indoctrinated to you.
Yes.
Good job.
So even at some point when we had the sibling rivalry with my brothers, they will rather go and report me, but not raise a hand on me, not fight me, because our dad told them, women, and me, I've been told. So I will do anything knowing that, you know, they cannot do anything to me.
That's unfair, but right, though. It's absolutely right.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so I've seen that it has really helped me because I stood out. Even when I got married, you know, I shared with my husband. And like, you know, me where I grew up, I've never seen women being, you know, beaten by men. So it will, when I see even on news, I get so, you know, surprised. Like, how can a man raise a hand on women? And when I was brought up, women are not supposed to be beaten by men. So
listen, exactly. Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely correct. So keep going. But some women will hit a man. You do know that. There's quite a few women out there that will walk up to a man and just hit them because they know they can get away with it. I don't think that's fair. We could talk about that another time.
Exactly.
But definitely it's more pervasive in the male violence towards women in the world. And
Yeah.
also, there's another factor. Men do not report violence as often as women report. That's another thing that happens.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do know there are a lot of men that are actually beaten by their wives and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and their
sure.
own friends. They're beaten by them and denigrated and emasculated, talked down to and treated in a manner where they have low self. And sometimes some of these men kill themselves as a result, or they allow that woman to kill them. Not as often as crime on women or hurting women, but it does happen. We've had quite a few cases like that over the years. But tell me something. When you finally started seeing gender-based violence, you said on the news, you were like, what is going on? Men are not supposed to hit women. When you started seeing it, how did you feel inside? What did you want to do about it? Please tell us.
I felt like, is there a way I can reach out to, just these women and, you know, stand up for them?
Yeah.
Because it seems,
Their advocacy. You want to have
yeah,
an advocacy for them.
yes.
I'm the same way. My mother was actually physically abused by
Mm-hmm.
my actually, yes. And that happened quite a bit. And so was I growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, when I became a man, I decided, well, all through life, I decided I'm not going to hit women. I don't do
Mm-hmm.
that. And then number
Yeah.
two, I did, even more, I won't hit children. I just don't do it. I
Mm-hmm.
think even though I got beat and I got beat up when I was a kid, um, um, I, 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 I could have taken two different routes. I could have been cyclical or generational and just been an abusive person, or I took the pain and I decided that I would create an element of courage in my life and just realize early on in life, when I was 10, 9 years old, I realized that, getting a beating was just a part of life. So it was easier for me, to get through it. Like if I
Mm-hmm.
knew how to make my dad stop beating me, the one thing I could do is not cry. If I didn't cry and didn't scream out, he just give up. He like, hey, get out of here, go get the hell out of here and go away. And I go away. But I knew
Oh.
that worked, but not all the time, because sometimes it didn't work. But it wasn't really his fault because those times when I grew up, and especially the Black neighborhoods and the culture, everybody beat their kids. And I don't mean everybody like, all encompassing everybody. I mean, but just within your immediate understanding of your surroundings, everybody beat their kids. And some of those people who saw you get beat by your parents, they would beat you too if you did something wrong. They see you out doing something wrong, and they say, "Come here, boy," and slap you upside the head and say, "Stop that!" And go tell your parents so they can beat you again. It was just that way when I was growing up. I hear comedians tell jokes about how they went whooping. Well, my mother, she was really one of those women. And my father was like, go and get me a switch, a tree branch, a tree, little wavy branch, that like a whip. Go get me one off the tree, skin it, and bring it to me. So now you got your murder weapon in your hand. You're about to give it to them. You think you're going to die. So you think it's a murder weapon. You're giving them, and they just beat you with it. I'm saying all that to say is that it is generational. And
Yes,
sometimes we have to break the cycles of generational abuse in order to make
exactly.
relevant to our kids. But I think
Mhm.
also time that if you have no discipline for your children, and I don't believe in hitting kids, but you have to give them the threat of not
Mhm.
violence, but the threat of an ultimatum or an outcome to a child, a subtle threat. I don't think you should be threatening to children, but you should have a subtle threat. The old adage goes like this: any person or nation or entity in the world
Mhm.
without the threat of external aggression will fail. Because
Sure.
what external aggression does, even in a disciplinary form, it tells that child that there are consequences outside of your sphere that can hurt you from the outside in. So you have to take it seriously. So that external threat becomes how they measure, not abuse, but how they measure what they can take in life and what they can't take in life, insofar as pain is concerned. And so it starts to give them a way to manage themselves, not to self-abuse, but to manage themselves away from some of the bad things in life that has consequences. We'll talk more about that another time, but I just wanted to say, because there's a couple more things, because we're already at 45 minutes. Think about it. I'm enjoying this conversation with you, Mary. And we're already at 45 minutes, and I want to give you some time so the audience can ask you some questions, number one. But also, I want to give you some time you're going to give us a culmination of events here. And I'm going to ask you a few personal questions, if I may. And so you can, share with our audience and kind of close us out a little later on down. So I just want to let you know that. Now, there are stigmas in Africa that there's no money, there's no services, there's nothing there to help these domestic violence victims, these women. Is that a true statement?
I can't just say it's a kind of, it's just a mentality, because when it comes to the abuse and you need to take a step. First of all, the first step starts with you and starts with your mind and gaining that courage. Once you gain courage, you will overcome anything and have confidence that I can do this. I've seen people who had courage and they had to leave everything behind, irrespective, the wealth, what they had made with the partners. And they said, I move on for my safety. And they start from a scratch. And people, they have done it. And they are even, they're doing much better. So it's just a kind of mentality about when it comes to resources, because of course, in Africa, there is a high rate of unemployment, but again, we do have resources.
Yes, absolutely.
And if we have the entrepreneurial mind, we can convert these resources into wealth. So it's just a kind of mindset that will drag us and not take a step. Let's talk about, the professional counseling. When it comes to, you've been abused and now you need to take a professional counseling. Some of this, therapy that you're looking for, some organizations offer them for free. We have gender-based violence recovery centers.
Okay.
But now, without taking a step, starting with yourself and deciding that, I want to gain courage and seek help, you may not know that these centers do exist. And you can get help.
We teach courage. In our norm therapy course, we actually teach courage to our norm therapists, and they turn around and provide courage development techniques to people. I think I could talk to you forever, so I'm going to definitely have you back on one of our to talk about domestic violence, to talk about gender-based violence, but also talk about some of the techniques that you use and other organizations use and should be using in some of these gender-based development centers for abuse that you were just discussing. I think that that's very necessary, that these techniques, and a lot of them I developed in norm therapy over the past 3 decades and have put into use over the past 6 or 7 years with people, trying to help them understand their abuse. Remember, people only want you to do better. They do. Many people want you to do better. They just don't want you to do better than them. And so oftentimes people who are in abusive circumstances, that other person, the abuser, is the one trying to keep them down, to keep them from progressing, to keep them hurt so they don't progress beyond them. It's a very egotistical and maniacal thing that people do in order to keep others down, to the point of emasculation. I mean, I've seen women stand up in the middle of the public crowd and talk about how terrible their husbands are. So that's bad. But anyway, I'm going to look at these questions here, and I want to ask you some questions. I know we can talk forever, and I do apologize, but I want to make sure that we get our questions answered. So I think this is enough. So give me about 2 minutes on each question, 1 minute if you can, so I can ask you these questions. What inspired your career path?
Yeah. I was just passionate about, having people around and information that I have, I don't hold on it. I'm one kind of person who like sharing information. And at times I find myself even sharing information with the people who at times I feel like they do not even need this information. But I find
Exactly.
myself I find
That's
myself
good.
sharing.
But
Yes, I
that's
find
good.
myself. Yes, I'm one kind of person. If I know something and you are around me, I won't let you just be like that. I will always share with you.
I-
Yes.
Absolutely. I like that very much. I think
Yes.
you have to immerse yourself into life itself, and you seem to do that. That's a good thing. What advice would you give someone who wanted to be in your career path? What advice would you give them? A young kid ready to go to school and they don't know what they want to do. How would you convince them that your path is something they should be doing?
First of all, I will tell them to have, the innermost interest. And the motivating factor here is that whatever you know, and three of you know, it means that it's a big cycle that will have this information and it will help. Because
So the
if
more,
I know and I share with you, Michael,
Mhm.
and you're also passionate about sharing the information, and it's a positive, of course, information. So we are sure that we'll have a great cycle and a successful society that will not like be, into that, shell whereby I don't know is the thing. Ignorance. We do away
Right.
with the ignorance. Yes, yes.
That's a number one priority in all societies that people should pay attention to. But oftentimes, some societies want their public to be ignorant so they can do whatever they want to do. I often tell the story that in the United States, people say there's a lot of political unrest in the United States right now. And there is. There's, I hate you, you hate my guy, I hate your guy, and all that. There's a lot of that. But there's a reason people are believing some fantastical nonsense in the political center. Because over the past 30 or 40 years, uh, each administration have been taking out of the curriculum civics, home economics, humanities, music, anything that make a person feel refined, make a person feel like they got some other knowledge where they can feel the political environment, understand it. I mean, you take civics and political science out of the curriculum, and people don't know how government works.
Yeah.
They don't know. And
Sure.
so when the government says it's this way and they feel passionate about it,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's not that way,
Mm-hmm.
then they end up going down a terrible path by not understanding what happens, in politics or in life or in domestic violence or anything else, because we're taking that out of the educational curriculums. So they're trying to keep people smart. Like some of these people who believe these dumb things that are being said by different political figures, they're doctors, they're attorneys, they're very well-educated people. They just were not educated in the areas that they need in order to interpret the politics of today. And that's what's going on in our societies worldwide. And that's how major governments control their people around the world. So you're right. We have to eradicate ignorance. That's
Sure.
the first and second things to do. Uh, I definitely wanted to make that point. We have a few more minutes, so I'm going to ask you another question if this is okay with you. Are you right now, and I know this is a kind of rhetorical question, but I want you to answer it anyway. Are you right now empowering your daughters to be strong women in the future?
Exactly.
How are you doing it?
And I've laid a platform. First of all, I've laid a platform to make my daughters to be my best friends. And I start by, telling them that, when we are best friends, me and you, we'll be sharing secrets. And you'll be telling me, your weaker points, what is not working for you with me. And I also tell you what is not working well with you. And
Exactly,
therefore,
both ways.
and therefore, now as I look at my firstborn, she's now a preteen. And preteen tends to have so many questions.
Oh my
And if
God.
I don't answer those questions, if I don't create that relationship with me, that, the friendship with me, she will seek maybe
Advice?
answers elsewhere.
Yes.
And they might lie to her. So I've made it a habit that every Sunday, I'm a Christian, after church, we have a session with her to speak out anything, either concerning your body, at
So you
school,
give
your
them a voice.
friends.
You give your children a voice.
Yes,
Yes. I
yes,
said you give your children a voice.
yes, a voice. So they always speak out anything. And what is not working, they will always speak, but in a respectful manner. You can tell your kids,
Yes.
speak it out, but in a disrespectful manner. So there's a way, and yes. So it starts, from the onset, like now the year one, the one who is 1 year, 3 months. The moment she starts realizing things, there's that information that, I'm impacting her with. I'm giving her that platform to speak out. There's a scenario where,
They need it. They need it.
yes, but there's a scenario where you realize that some parents will shut their, kids when they're tender age, and then it's like they have closed all the doors for them and they can never speak it out. But for me, I'm trying to lay that foundation. Always, what is not working, we can still talk. And I always tell my daughters, there are two types of people in the world. They are bad and they are good. And you cannot avoid them. They are all in the society.
Exactly. Exactly. You cannot avoid.
Yes.
I'd love to continue this conversation, but we're going to run out of time here. So I'm going to just thank you now. Then I have to read some announcements and then we'll close out. Is that okay?
Okay. Okay.
Okay. But I've enjoyed you. So I'm going to ask our audience if you really enjoyed and got something out of today's live podcast, please share this live session with, of course, friends and let them see what kind of benefit they can get from our messages. We also like for you to go to goarrow.org, GOARO.org, and to normtherapy.com to explore and learn more about our opportunities and seek help for yourself or someone needing our services in the areas of abuse and abuse prevention, as well as suicide and suicide prevention. One of the identifiable victim markers for people who are trying to take their own lives or who have taken their lives, people are not that familiar with what those markers are, but oftentimes it's abuse. Oftentimes it's a form of self-abuse or some type of psychological abuse or physical abuse from others that should be protecting them, that would cause them to want to take their lives and to be quiet about it. So we also work heavily in the area of suicide prevention, and we've been talking to some pretty strong advocates in that community for quite some time in developing that. So we'll be talking more about that on our podcast in the future. But talking about domestic violence that we talked about today and women's lives being taken through gender-based violence is something we need to pay attention to, not only in Kenya, but all over the world. And Mary Britta brought some fantastic points today that I think we should all, contemplate. And if you want to participate in our live sessions as a guest, online, as a victim or survivor, go ahead and email us at contact@normtherapy.com. contact@normtherapy.com, or whatever reason you want to get in contact with us, use that same email address. So today, before we close out, I'm going to thank you for joining us. And of course, we can't wait to see you again this Sunday, June 9th at 12 p.m. noon Eastern Standard Time, where I'll be interviewing Margaret Yvette. She's an interim social media supervisor at Arrow. And now I want, of course, Mary to close us out. If you had anything to tell us, Mary, that's important to you and you want everybody to know, you can take a minute and just close us out and tell us what that is.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. What I would like to say is that, you know, in our day-to-day activities, we may undergo abuse. And sometimes you may not realize that this is an abuse, but just the way we take care of our, physical health, it is always good, to go for, medical checkup. And this can be through therapy. We are glad norm therapy is offered at Arrow, and urge you, each and every person, that in case you find that you're not doing well, or you suspect some abuse, or you have not even realized that you have been abused, you can just go for, a checkup. And at the end of the day, you can find help and live normal again. That's what I can say.
That's the whole idea behind norm therapy, to help you find a normal. Not my normal, not your normal, but
No.
what would your life have been like had you not been abused, and try to get you there? I think that is the normal we're always looking for in people.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mary Wanyama. Say
Yes.
hello to your husband. We didn't get a chance to talk about him much. He seemed like a great guy, though, from what you did. You have 3 wonderful daughters, and I wish you all well. I'll see you around Abuse Refuge, because, I'm also over there too at the nonprofit. But I really appreciate you being on with us today. You were a very informative guest, and we'll talk again. And you may be invited back soon to talk on one of our panels as we discuss these issues and more in our future. Okay?
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and have a good one. I'm going to end this stream. Thank you, everyone out there, for joining us today, and I really appreciate your patronage. And go to our website, normtherapy.com, and GoArrow, GOARO.org for more information.
Okay. Bye.
Yes. Now, our stream has ended, and thank you. That was wonderful.